Yeah, Damon, tonight is a big night for Keegan Bradley and the United States Ryder Cup team because tonight, Keegan Bradley here in Philadelphia will be hosting a dinner for players that will likely be on his Ryder Cup team that will compete at Bethpage. Invited to the dinner, the current top 20 players in the United States Ryder Cup standings. Also invited are members of the 2023 United States Ryder Cup team that lost in Rome and last year's United States team that competed for the President's Cup at Royal Montreal. Now, there's some significant players that will be there and one that will not be there. As for those who will be there, not only those players that I mentioned that are invited, but there are a couple players that play on Live Golf that are going to make the trip up to Philadelphia to be a part of this dinner tonight. Those players are Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau, so they will be meeting tonight and having dinner with Keegan Bradley and possible teammates for the United States Ryder Cup team. One player that will not be there tonight is world number one Scottie Scheffler. Now, Scheffler is not playing this week in the Truist Championship, and I talked to Keegan Bradley about the absence of Scheffler, and he said, I talked to Scottie about this, and he completely understands that he wants to spend some time with his family prior to traveling to Charlotte to compete in the PGA Championship, so he has an excused absence. And Keegan is very excited about this evening and kind of bringing unity to this team as they get ready to try to win it at Bethpage. Guys?
Todd, I hope Keegan's probably going to need a good week to actually pick up the tab for this dinner tonight. He's also in the mix as a potential player on his own team, and he hasn't ruled that out. Do you get any sense that he's struggling to balance the demands of the captaincy and the desire to play at a high level?
Well, I think it's natural, Eamon, for Keegan Bradley to struggle with that management. He's told me that when he's here at the golf course preparing for an event or competing in an event on the PGA Tour, obviously his focus is there. And when he steps off property, then he puts another hat on as the Ryder Cup captain. But that is very challenging to compartmentalize. When I talked to him this morning about this dinner tonight, he kind of got emotional about how excited he is to stand in front of that room and look at all these great players and understand that they have great friendships and something that he didn't really have early in his career. He didn't make a lot of friendships out here on the PGA Tour. He kind of saw his competing players as enemies, but he loves that now. He's really bought into that, and he is going to use that power to try to bring this team together. But at the same time, as you mentioned, he would love to qualify for this team. He would love to make this team himself. And to automatically qualify, yes, he said if he automatically qualifies, he's going to play. Now, let's say hypothetically he finishes 7th, 8th, 9th, maybe even 10th in the standings once the qualification process is over. Now, he did say that if that happens, he will talk to the 6 that did qualify, get a sense of their feelings about him being a playing captain on the team, and then make a decision from there. But tonight is, again, going to be a special night for Keegan Bradley, but he is going to come out here, hopefully, and have his focus on trying to compete to win the Truist Championship.
T-Lou, I'm fascinated about this dinner. Anytime a big group gathers together, it could be a family table for Thanksgiving. There could be some awkwardness among family members, so surely some awkwardness among professional golfers in this splintered era that we live in. You mentioned Bryson, you mentioned Brooks. Do you think any hard feelings we push to the side because they're all kind of playing for the red, white, and blue? Or could there be some, hurt feelings and some awkward silences at this dinner?
Well, I think let's start with Brooks Koepka. Brooks was part of the 2023 team. He lives in South Florida in the Jupiter area where most of the players that are on that team live. So he has a familiarity with a lot of those players, those elite players that will be at this dinner tonight. And he really hasn't tried to trash the PGA Tour in their now long battle against each other. And we'll see if they come together or not. So I don't really see Brooks as being a problem. And for that matter, although Bryson had some friction when he left the PGA Tour to go to Live Golf, there was some tension, it seemed like, between him and the PGA Tour players. That seems to have eroded. And there's a couple of reasons why. I think Bryson is a little more receptive, not only to the audience, but to the current PGA Tour players. He's trying to make himself amicable, likable with the PGA Tour players. In other words, he's putting the work in to try to make that happen. And secondly, and maybe the most important thing, is that just like that Liam Neeson character in the movie Taken, he has a particular set of skills that really can benefit in team play, considering how far he hits the ball, he's going to be great in both formats, foursome or four ball. And they see the talent that he has. I mean, last year, 3 top 10s in 4 major championships, including a victory at the U.S. Open, and he played well at the Masters this year. So they would love to have him tee it up for the red, white, and blue at Bethpage.
Liam Neeson, very good in stressful situations, and Bryson DeChambeau has been as well. T-Lou with some great reporting from the city of brotherly love. Your reaction to this dinner, I think it's a great idea. Get out in front of it. Get it done early. Get the guys in the room. Get them, put some music on, some maybe NBC Ryder Cup music, some red, white, and blue. Do whatever you have to do to get everybody, together, any awkwardness out of the way, and get on the same page for one goal.
Yeah, and past captains have done that as well. Zach Johnson had dinners with his guys before the Ryder Cup in Rome. I don't really think there's going to be any awkwardness on any kind of individual level here. I mean, these guys have played team golf together. Certainly they didn't play the President's Cup together last year. But you would expect that Koepka and DeChambeau would be the 2 most likely guys to be invited to the dinner, because they are the 2 most likely guys on LIV to potentially qualify for a Ryder Cup. It will be interesting to see, is it a captain's pick scenario or is it a qualification scenario, because they don't have that many opportunities to earn points on LIV, certainly, or outside of that ecosystem. And it's an interesting scenario that Keegan finds himself in here, because there's a lot of depth at the top of his team in that first 6.
Right.
Once you get beyond that, there's a lot of guys in the mix right now who don't have experience. And we just saw some of the qualifiers there. But you've got Andrew Novak in there. You've got Maverick McNeely, J.J. Spawn. Russell Henley's currently in the top 6. Played the President's Cup last year. Has never played a Ryder Cup. And pretty much everyone who's played Ryder Cup tells you it's a very different animal when you get out there representing your flag in that scenario on the first tee. And certainly he's going to be at Bethpage Black. So I think it'll be an interesting dilemma Keegan's going to find himself in, because he might just really need the experience of a Koepka or a DeChambeau when it comes to Bethpage Black, even if they're not automatically in that top 6 or even in their top 12.
It's a good point. I think his focus and competitiveness as a player will lend to some great strengths as a captain. And I think when he does stand in front of the room tonight with those players, I think that'll be leaping off his body, that emotion. And I think any little nitpicking or disappointment or bickering of the past, when you're looking at a teary-eyed Keegan Bradley who's talking about representing his country and being the captain, I think that's going to make those guys want to run through a wall for him.
Yeah, and I think Keegan also has a past close friendship, for instance, with Phil Mickelson that has survived. Mickelson going to LIV and litigating against the tour as well. So whatever hard feelings have existed in the past, I think the ice has melted a little bit in terms of individual players over the last couple of years. I don't expect that it's going to be a significant dynamic. If it wasn't a major dynamic back in 2023, it's not going to be this year.